You're listening to The Morning Buzz.
The Morning Buzz.
To the Morning Buzz.
The Morning Buzz on 90.3. 90.3.
90.3.
90.3 WMSC.
WMSC.
WMSC Upper Montclair.
Upper Montclair, New Jersey.
Say hello to the big, beautiful world. This is 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair with the Monday edition of The Morning Buzz. I am your host, Kyle Pepitone. Joined with me, my co-host, Ryan Breyta.
Kyle, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a Monday, so, the bar's set pretty low, but I think I'm okay. How are you?
I honestly feel that same testament. Mondays are it's another week going by. That's the case. I can't believe we're halfway through April, but
I'm still trying to process March, so let's not bring that up because that's a weird thing to think about. There's 6 weeks left in the semester, and it still seems too long. It's
craziness. I don't know. We should be ending in a month by now, But that's just another topic to talk about. But
yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. But right now we have Katrina Geiger here with our weekly newscast.
Thank you, Kyle. So today in local news, according to 6abc.com, toll hikes are being implemented on 8 different toll bridges under the Delaware River Joint Toll Bridge Commission for the first time in 10 years. This toll hike came into effect yesterday, Sunday, April 11th. Car tolls have increased to $1 to $1.25 for Easy Pass drivers and $1 to $3 for drivers who pay cash at the bridges. The 7 bridges included in this toll hike are Trenton Morrisville, New Hope Lambertville, I-87 Eastern Phillipsburg, Portland Columbia, Delaware Water Gap, and Milford Montague. Some drivers seem to have a problem with the toll hike, while others seem to see the good in it. In national news, according to the New York Times, the officer who's pepper sprayed the Black Army medic has been confirmed to be fired yesterday. No further information was said to be announced when he was fired, but officials have said that an internal investigation has been determined that the officer's actions weren't consistent with the department's policies. On April 2nd, both officers were sued. Lieutenant Nazario accused both officers of using excessive force and violating his constitutional rights. And in international news, according to apnews.com, officials say that the Chinese vaccines, quote, don't have very high rates, end of quote. Beijing has already distributed hundreds of millions of doses while also trying to promote its doubt on the effectiveness of the Pfizer's BioNTech vaccine. China is already considering whether they should even distribute the vaccines to their citizens. The majority of China's vaccines have been made over Sinovac, a private company which is a state-owned firm, has also distributed vaccines to many other countries, including Mexico, Turkey, Hungary, Brazil, and etc. According to researchers in Brazil, the effectiveness to prevent the symptomatic infections in Sinovac vaccines is as low as 50.4%. And according to experts, only 50% is the threshold for vaccines to be useful and effective, making the Sinovacs only 0.4% higher than the threshold. And on to the weather for today. Your weather in Montclair, New Jersey is a high of 52 degrees and a low of 43 degrees with mostly rain today.
Awesome. Thank you. And we also have Matt Boucher here with our weekly sportscast.
Good morning. I'm Matt Boucher, and here is your 2-minute sports warning for the day. Over the weekend, many Montclair State sports took place, so let's get into them real quick. The women's soccer team beat Stockton University 1-0 to advance to the NJAC Championship, where they will face Rutgers Camden on Wednesday. The baseball team lost to Stockton 7-3. Lost to Stockton University 7-3, but won game 2 of the doubleheader 9-6. Men's lacrosse looked dominant in a win over Keystone 20-1. The softball team beat Rutgers Camden 4-2, and the men's soccer team is advancing to the NJAC Championship after beating Rutgers Camden on Saturday 3-1. In professional sports, in the MLB, both the Yankees and the Mets lost on Saturday. Yankees lost 4-0 against the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Mets, despite Jacob deGrom letting up just 1 run in 8 innings on 14 strikeouts, the Mets lost 3-0. Yesterday, the Yankees were able to redeem themselves against the Rays, winning 8-4. While in Queens, there was too much of a downpour, resulting in a rain delay that eventually led to the Mets game being postponed. In the NBA, today the Knicks will be taking on last year's champion, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Nets will be traveling to Minnesota for a game against the Timberwolves. Kevin Durant is back and healthy for Brooklyn, while Harden still recovers from a hamstring injury, and Kyrie is sitting out tonight due to personal reasons. And today, in sports history, Barry Bonds hits his 660th home run to tie Willie Mays for his third on baseball's career list. To this day, Barry still holds the record for most home runs with 762. Let's send it back to you guys.
Awesome. Good to hear. So it looks like there's sports going on back on campus. Is that right?
Yes, they're in full swing right now, every sport.
Oh, that's good to hear. But unfortunately, not everything on Montclair's campus is going as peachy as we would like. And Ryan here is actually going to talk about that because he's on campus, so he has a bit more insight. Ryan, what's going on currently with the Montclair campus?
Well, Kyle, it's kind of nutty on Montclair State's campus right now. Yesterday morning, Sunday morning, every resident student received an email from their respective housing that said, follow protocols or else. They then followed by saying, is this the next message you want to get? Pack your bags and go home. The school, the Res Life, says too many residents are not following the safety protocols and are testing positive for COVID. This is jeopardizing our ability to keep you safe and on campus. The email then follows to say to tell students not to go home to visit family, do not go to the grocery store or out to eat, and especially do not go in a car with a group of friends to go off campus. And a reminder, every student should be signing a waiver to leave campus. This email comes after numerous in-person events on campus, whether it is a parade for Dr. Karen Pennington, a huge event at the Student Center Quad involving a bouncy house and outdoor events, and even club sports, as Matt said in his sportscast, right? As you know, and the COVID dashboard, cases have went up on campus. But that could be for a lot of reasons. You know, there have been, like I said, there's been a lot of events on campus, or, you know, the spread's not really made clear in the email, but Res Life is really saying for the uptick in cases, Res Life is really tightening their restrictions even more so. So no resident students can sign each other in. And if a resident is caught doing that, then they're in jeopardy of losing their housing.
Oh, wow.
So, and the reaction to the update has not been going well for the university. Numerous students have posted emails that they've sent to Res Life. And there was a leaked picture from the Karen Pennington parade of someone in the parade who was walking without wearing a mask. That has been getting a lot of circulation. They posted emails that they sent, and this people actually started petitions to try and change the policy. So that's what's happening at Montclair State right now.
Right. And besides all these restrictions, or the heightened restrictions being put in place for Res Life students, the same doesn't apply to like commuters, right? Like commuters have a bit more leeway because, you know, they're not there, so they have to go on and off campus. Like, is that fair? Do people, well, obviously people don't like that, but what do you think their thought process behind that is? Because obviously commuters are just as susceptible to spreading it as people who live there.
Right. That's a good point. You know, the university has pushed for, you know, we've seen it, right? Like the university's pushed for in-person classes. They have pushed, you know, coming on campus to get that experience. And they've said for, you know, for commuters to do their hawk check, you know, wear your mask, things like that. And for the most part, that's happening, right? But then after classes, you know, you have commuters going to Blanton, meeting up with people. However, like in the student center quads, the only problem is commuters can't get into residence halls. So that's probably the university's thinking, because they're saying, oh, if they don't impact our numbers, there's no problem, right?
Okay.
And it's like, commuters can come on campus whenever you want. I mean, Kyle, you're a commuter. If I tell you right now, hey, you want to get food in Blanton, you could just come on campus. There's nothing restricting you. There's nothing restricting anything to commuters. But there's the whole thing about Montclair is they're trying to have this whole bubble aspect, but there is no bubble if people keep coming on and off campus, and another thing. Purpose. Yeah, exactly. And they're saying their bubble's broken. Well, yeah, no kidding. The bubble's broken. It's because there's people coming in and out, and the bubble aspect is just not being followed, right? And the one thing I really want to point out is they're telling people not to go out to get groceries or out to eat. What about the people in Hawks who, they have kitchens? They rely on things from the grocery stores to go out and buy. The restaurants on campus close extremely early, especially on the weekends. So there's like a double standard here of don't leave campus, but you're also not offering anything for people to eat or pick up food or anything for these people that need it the most.
Yeah, especially since like 2 years ago, didn't the 24-hour diner shorten its hours as well? So like even that is closed at some point, cutting off that option as well.
It did, yeah. I remember. I walked past it, and it's like there's nothing there, and I don't really see how they're gonna have students live on campus, not be able to go to the grocery store, not be able to eat when they can because they're not gonna have food from not going to the grocery store. So how the heck are they supposed to eat to survive?
Yeah. And another thing, going off of that, the email because we put it in the radio Discord, it says only leave campus for emergencies. Or essentials, whatever they said. One of the essentials they said is pharmacies. So like medicine and pharmaceuticals. And 90% of the time, a pharmacy is located in a grocery store. So what are you supposed to do then? Is that not a loophole, a flaw in logic? Does anybody have an answer for this one?
I don't know if anyone does, Kyle, and that's the problem, right?
Yeah, keep going. Sorry, but what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to go and get your medicine, but restricted from getting grocery? Are they going to like check what you bought at the pharmacy/grocery store? It doesn't make sense. And what doesn't also make sense, and this is going back to the commuter thing, we're at the point in the year where high school seniors or high school juniors, I should say, are looking at colleges. And what most colleges do is they offer tours. Now, I know a lot of colleges that have done like online tours. Like they'll do a little virtual tour, put it on the website. You can do it at your own pace from the safety of your own home. I don't believe that's the entire case with Montclair, correct? We are offering in-person tours, right?
There are in-person tours happening. There have been many instances of tours. We would be in the School of Communication and Media, right? And it'd be a huge tour come in inside the School of Communication and Media, and everyone is wearing a mask. Everyone is following, the social distance protocols. The one thing people are getting a little angry about in the Montclair State community is, whether it's the tours stopping in the middle of Sam's Place, blocking the entrance to get into Sam's. There have been instances where some people go into the entrance of Machuga. Nothing's confirmed if people are going into rooms. That is not confirmed. But, these tours are happening all over campus. And that's another thing with people coming off campus into our bubble in a way, right? And there were virtual tours being offered last spring and into the summer. But Montclair has made it very clear that they want next semester to be in person. They want next semester to be as normal as possible. And another thing that's coming up is like with vaccinated people, right? If people living on campus are vaccinated, they're going to want to meet up with their friends who are vaccinated or with their friends who they were not able to see. Because just only a few weeks ago, they were able to do that. It's been definitely a wild past few days for sure. And I don't think it's going to get any better, especially with, housing was just picked for next semester.
Yep.
I think the deadline is today to sign up. And it's just, these incoming freshmen definitely see what's happening. It's being posted. If you look on Instagram or Twitter or even like Facebook right now, this is trending all over. So I think in the long run, this is going to hurt Montclair in the process.
Yeah. Like, I feel, in my opinion, if they plan on having in-person classes next semester, they should really be taking this semester very seriously. Like having like all this in-person stuff right now. If they plan on having it all in person next semester, I just feel like they should be taking all the protocols, doing some virtual stuff here, like still doing virtual. I think especially for the dorms. For the dorms, they definitely could have done that virtually. I mean, I don't know about how they would like, do all the other like schools, but I just feel like for the dorms, people are living there. They're not comfortable with random strangers coming from all over the state being in that same building. Who knows what they got, I just think it's crazy not knowing who these people are going into dorms. They could definitely do a Zoom kind of virtual tour for the dorms. So
Yeah, I mean, there's like, if you go on YouTube, you can type in any hall name, and I guarantee you somebody put up some kind of video of their room, which now I'll admit is probably not the greatest way to figure out what a room looks like, but Montclair can take some inspiration from that and make one of their own instead of a cartoon drawn floor plan on the website, and that's it.
right.
Because I know one thing looking at houses, I just had to pick mine for the fall semester. You don't really get a sense of what all the rooms look like. Like I said, you get that blueprint floor plan with like stock image graphics. It's not going to give you the greatest sense of what to do. So a better way to solve this problem, instead of doing in-person campus dorm tours, like you said, virtual, they could just update it a little more.
Right. Yeah, I just think that would have been a smarter option for Montclair, It's just there's so much going on right now. And I mean, even though it's a little tough to like, maybe try to get everybody tested before coming on campus, I think that would have been smart as well. I don't know if they did require that. I don't know about if you guys know that, but I don't know if they even like had people tested before they came onto like the campus to do tours.
You mean the tour? You mean the tour people?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know students are have to get like 3 tests in like the span of 2 weeks, something like that, right?
Yep. So students have to get 2 rapids every week. And then everyone's in a cohort. So there's cohort A and there's cohort B. I have not been tested at all yet because I had the antibodies and I also just got the vaccine. But I am starting that cohort in a week. But they just updated the 2 rapid tests per week. And a lot of students are like, well, why do I have to get tested like 3 times a week? Because one person can test positive one day and then the next week it's like, oh, like I'm negative now. It's a whole other aspect that they're adding to, I guess, stop, testing is great. Anything, like it's been proven, like if the more coronavirus testing, the better. And I think they've caught like a good sense of COVID cases. Because of the testing. I don't think the testing is a downfall. Testing, if anything, is a good thing. There's actually been like a shortage of testing around the world due to like vaccines because people aren't really caring as much for COVID. But it's the way I think they go about it sometimes gets a lot of students in a sense of the freedom. People go to college to experience that freedom. And a lot of students, a lot of people I've talked to, a lot of people that have reached out to me, just aren't getting that freedom. And they're not really feeling that college experience. And obviously, are we in a pandemic? Yes, we are. But there has to be the same standard for every student. It's not just on-campus residents, but even like the professors or commuters.
Right. Yeah. And like, so clearly Montclair has enough resources to rapid test a lot of people at once. So that goes back to the thing, like, then why can't they, like, okay, fill me in, because I don't know the ins and outs, but how long does a rapid test take to come back?
It depends on where you get the rapid test, right? I've never gotten a rapid test on campus, but usually rapid tests take about 15 to 30 minutes. Now, keep in mind, there's over 1,000 students living on campus right now. Right. So they're probably taking a little bit longer than that. But that's usually when a rapid test comes in.
Right. So maybe testing everyone in the group before the tour starts isn't the best idea. But it's definitely a suggestion. Maybe.
We're going to talk a lot, especially in the other stories we have about like, vaccine like passports or vaccine proof of vaccinations. I think that's definitely something that's going to be talked about in the near future. You know, a lot of colleges have been bringing that up, that aspect, but it's definitely something that Montclair has to handle, and I'm sure something will come out in the next few days about this. I'd be very surprised if nothing comes out about this policy. I do want to mention too, you know, like the pandemic has not only affected people like physically and, you know, for physical health, but mental health wise, it's been terrible for people because they're not able to see anyone. They're not able to talk to people. Obviously, they're talking to people through screens. Look at us right now. We're on, you know, we're doing this through Zoom.
We're only talking because this is the radio and where I have to talk. In my classes, nobody says a word unless prompted by the teacher. And even then you have a 50% chance of somebody actually answering.
Right. And I think it's affected definitely everyone's mental health. But again, if anyone needs resources, there is CAPS on campus. And if you need anything at all, CAPS is available at 973-655-5211. I just wanted to let that out for anyone, for those listening, for those resources.
Yeah. But even all of this, like the testing and the Toro Group's fiasco and everything just going on in Montclair, I guess it still remains up in the air what's going on with the fall because as the year goes on, more and more, or as this semester goes on and is drawing to a close for a lot of schools, more and more universities are requiring students to get the vaccine for next year. Recently, Duke University was just been added to the list of colleges requiring the vaccine for students after Rutgers here in New Jersey was the first one to implement it. They were the first college to implement a COVID vaccination requirement to be allowed on campus for next semester. And of course, this is nothing new. Colleges have been requiring all kinds of vaccines for years, such as the MMR vaccine, which is used to protect against measles, mumps, and rubella. And I believe recently, requiring the flu vaccine is something that's come to light recently, like late
November.
2020, I want to say.
Yeah, like November, I think. Well, Montclair required it at least.
Right. And what do you guys think about this? Because there's a lot of colleges that has been added to the list. Like I said, Duke University, University of Notre Dame, Brown, Cornell, and Northeastern have all made vaccinations for COVID mandatory for the next semester. So based on this last email Res Life students got, do you think requiring the vaccine is something we can see before the start of the fall semester here at Montclair?
I have a really good feeling that they're gonna require the vaccine. I mean, to start off, I think public schools tend to stick together when it comes to certain kinds of things. So I think that if Rutgers did it, I have a good feeling Montclair is gonna require it. Another thing is that, especially since of this whole situation going on, I think that this is one step forward to them, being like, oh yes, this vaccine is needed for students before going on campus. Seeing the spike in cases, and they expect for students to go back in the fall. I feel like it would just be, I don't know. I just feel like it's just expected from them after all this. So I feel like it's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Ryan, you think the same?
I wouldn't be surprised by it. I think what people have to realize is that vaccine passports of proof of vaccinations is nothing new. That's just common facts. You know, you could read the New York Times, any article anyone would like to read. It's true. Proving vaccinations is nothing out of the ordinary. And I think it's such a big deal and it's such a talked about topic is because there's a lot of people in, let's say conservative media that are making it seem like the vaccines, they're trying to mandate vaccines, they're taking away our freedom. Look at Governor Abbott in Texas, Governor DeSantis in Florida, they're banning the use of vaccine passports. But I think if people would like to get back to some type of normalcy, or people would like to limit the cases of coronavirus, then getting the vaccine is something that's important. I got the vaccine. I'm okay. For those listening and who are skeptical, I'm fine. But the thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if Montclair does it, especially for the liability issues, right? Think they want in-person learning, and if there's a surge in cases, what's the benefit in that for them?
And do you think, like, if they do require it, that's going to affect the student population? Like, do you think some students will, so to speak, drop out and go somewhere else if the vaccine is required?
I just feel like there's gonna be those students. There's always gonna be those types of people who are going to, gonna want to do that. I just feel like there's also people that have medical exceptions. I feel like, allergic reactions, but I think some people, what's going to happen is people that don't want to take the vaccine, and if they make it mandatory, I feel that they're going to find some sort of way to still be involved with the school, but like not go on campus, maybe like try to find all their like classes online, do something like that. But yeah, I feel like there are going to be people who are going to want to like transfer.
Yeah.
But
I think that odds that are pretty good, because this is a very, like, this vaccine is very, usually people are like, yes, vaccines are good, and then all the jokes about people who don't think they work is the thing. But I think not the tables have turned, but it's definitely a very different story this time around. Probably because it's something we're living through, and it's something that's come out, so to speak, in our lifetime. Because like all the other vaccines we've gotten have been for disease and viruses we really don't have to worry about anymore. Like measles, mumps, those kind of things I've never had to worry about. They don't even cross my mind 90% of the time. But this one we are seeing the start and potentially the very close end of this, that I think it's a very divisive thing to say, because the flu vaccine, for those of you who don't know, it took 4 years to develop that vaccine between the time the flu pandemic started and when the vaccine came out. So I think that's one of the reasons people are very skeptical of it, because it came out so quick for something everybody's been so unsure about in the past year. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think the reason why 20% of the U.S. population has gotten vaccinated, which is great. Who would have thought this would have happened by April? But I think a lot of people are just getting the vaccine, even if they don't trust it, because they're seeing that they can get back to some type of normalcy. They're seeing that they could see their grandmother who they haven't seen in over a year without a mask. They could see, people that even their friends too, without a mask. And I think that's why people are getting the vaccine, even if they distrust it. Right. I think that's part of the reason why people want to get back to like college life too. And if people don't want to end up getting the vaccine for colleges, I know there's people who didn't want to get the flu shot at Montclair. That's just something that they have to worry about, whether it's with their doctors, things like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a virtual option for those people. I wouldn't be surprised if they have to go on like virtual classes because of it,
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, their plan is to go, fully in person next semester? So I wonder if they are even going to offer an online option, because think about it. The teachers have been like almost split on whether they want to go back or not. We've seen stories of some teachers saying, I can't wait to go back, and others saying it's not safe yet, I'd rather teach from home. But having to teach an in-person and online portion of the class simultaneously, it makes you wonder if Montclair is going to implement something like that, especially if the online portion is only going to encompass like 1 or 2 students per class.
I would not be surprised, because if you remember from last year, they were saying a lot of the stuff in person when we were picking everything for last year. I don't know if you guys remember, they were saying like it'll be half in person, half virtual. This year, what happened? It was majority virtual. I would not be surprised if things are like that again with the flex, like the hybrid model. because I don't
Right.
think a lot of students, there's 20,000 students who go to Montclair State. I do not think every student is comfortable going back in person yet. I was talking about this with Josh, our station manager the other day. Imagine going back on like the shuttle, like with a packed shuttle. Like, I don't know how comfortable I'd be in a packed shuttle with people, and we already know how that's going to be like, especially the parking is going to be.
I mean, I've never taken a shuttle, so I wouldn't know, but yeah, I can't imagine it'd be good. And I had to say something, and I forgot what it was, but I'm sure it'll come back to me later. But yeah, so it's really it really only remains to be seen, like what's going to happen after this. So, I guess we'll have to keep everyone updated because it's something different that we've never seen. It's because the first half was or when this started, it's like, okay, we're all going home, we're all online, no problem. And then I don't know about you guys, but when the fall semester of 2020 came around, I was still online, and I knew that from like May. And then this semester hit, and I knew I was online again from like November, because for some reason they call the art classes very, very early the last 2 semesters. They've called their fate like before the previous semester was even halfway through. So that's weird. But I did have one class this semester that was supposed to be hybrid. Like, you can go on campus if you want, and the rest can be on Zoom. And for literally the past 15 minus 6, 9 weeks, I've gotten an email from my professor every day. Class is all online today. Class is all online today. Class is all online today. So once again, I don't know if it's like some technical issue that the teacher can't get working, or he just doesn't want to go in, but it makes you wonder, like, how are they going to even do it when it's every class doing this hybrid stuff, if they allow it?
From my experiences, in the fall, I took journalism class, like intro to journalism, and we met half in person, half online. And what that meant was people who felt comfortable going in person went in person, but we had to log into Zoom, like with our earbuds in. So we're on Zoom on our phones, and we're walking around campus outside where it was Tara George at the time, was teaching. So it was like Professor George was teaching on Zoom on the same time, meanwhile talking to us outside. It was a bizarre experience. And I was going to say, our station manager, Annabella, she just said that she hates like doing hybrid classes. She says either we do in person or remote. Doing both is awful. And I can only imagine how like professors are doing this right now, because like I said, being in class and being on Zoom while the professor is lecturing right in front of you, it's something that needs to be fixed, or there needs to be an address where it's like, we either do this or we just stay all online, because it's not only driving students crazy, it's driving the professors insane,
Yeah, I couldn't imagine having to keep the in-person class under control and then make sure everybody's paying attention on Zoom. 90% of the students would never turn their cameras on if they have one. Yeah, it's something, but I mean, that's all we really know about this point. And we can spend the next 6 hours going on about our experiences that each of us have had in the last year. But I mean, I don't know if that's what people really want to hear. So, yeah. But that being said, we've got some other things going on in the world. Something that Petrina mentioned earlier in her newscast. Ryan, you want to take this one?
Yes. So as Petrina said in her newscast, the officer accused of force in the stop of a Black Army officer has been fired. The one of 2 officers in Ridgemont, Virginia, that were accused of pepper spraying a Black Army officer during a traffic stop was fired. Governor Ralph Northam requested an investigation by Virginia State Police into the December 2020 encounter, which 2 Windsor police officers were accused of drawing their guns and pointing them at a U.S. Army Second Lieutenant Karen Nazario. They also used a slang term to suggest he was facing execution. Nazario, who's Black, he's Latino as well, was knocked to the ground by the 2 officers, according to the lawsuit he filed earlier this month against them. Nazario is also suing the officers for excessive force. Um, is it bad to say that I'm not surprised that this happened? It's over the past year or so, we've seen numerous events that have happened towards Black Americans from police officers, with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, obviously. And I think the fact that this happened to an Army lieutenant who has served for this country, and, it was just during a traffic stop. And the fact that this still happens after numerous events have happened in the world, and it's seen on video, when is it going to end? When is there going to be a change in the way officers are taught to limit violence? In New Jersey, it's very strict. The amount of laws that are in place for officers in their training is very thought out and thorough. I only know that because my brother is a police officer and he tells me what is happening, right? And it's just common knowledge if you look that up too. But I think throughout the country, there is a difference in the way policing is happening. And the fact that this happened to to Nazario is shameful.
Yeah. I mean, this is a hard one to wrap your head around because I don't know what happened. I can't even begin to imagine what happened. But the fact that it's an Army lieutenant, or an Army officer, is just makes it a little, I don't want to say worse, but a lot more horrific to think about. Something like that. Words are escaping me at this moment. I'm still in a bit of shock just to hear this, but I don't know what to say really, because I always thought like the police, fire department, Army, all on like, I don't want to say sides, but like all in that same group of serving this country, albeit in different ways, but they all fit under that same category of like service and something like that. So to see this is a little, or a lot off-putting for me and what my thought process or like my perception of this was, or perspective.
It's, for my perspective looking into this, first of all, thank God for cameras. Thank God for phones. Thank God for video recording, right? Because it's like, if there was no recording of this, we would not know that this happens. This happens very more often than not, right?
And the video that's up looks like it's coming from a body cam, correct?
Yeah. We have to confirm that. But good thing New Jersey just implemented body cameras as well. That's another good thing New Jersey has done. But the fact that this was caught on a body camera, the fact that it was just released just now, it is April. This happened in December of 2020.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this happened in December 2020. So it's the fact of the matter is the officers, I'm glad that the officer was held accountable. He was fired. Only one of them, though. But there needs to be, I just think there's more, just now is just the call to do more in regards to policing. I know the House of Representatives tried to pass a bill regarding policing. It's something that is an everlasting issue. And I don't know if Patrina, if you have something to add about it, but it's just, I feel for Officer Navarro, for his family too. And that's really all I could really say at the moment. I'm kind of lost for words.
Right. I mean, it is quite, I just can't believe like how officers, the way like those kinds of officers think, like what goes through their head that like all of this has happened, and they still, some of them still proceed to, do those kind of things to these poor people. And it's like, why? And like, it's just, I as well as me, I have like no words. It's like just really heartbreaking. I don't know. It's just very tiring to deal with. It's so sad.
Yeah. I mean, even with like, so it came from, it looks like it came from a body cam. Like Ryan said, that would have to be confirmed, but it's weird because you would think they know the body cam is on them, so they would know not to do something outrageous. So it's it feels like there's something deeper going. I don't know how to say it, but like obviously if I have a camera on me, I'm not going to do something ridiculous or horrific by any means. So do they just like forget about it? Do they have, is it really just fueled by like, I don't want to say hatred, but like their own personal agenda? Like what is, there's something else going on to do something like that, knowing your actions are recorded.
I think it all comes down to, we could talk about all day about, policing and the way people act. We can't change how people think, in their minds about certain biases they have, right? But we could talk about what needs to be done in regards to reform, what needs to be done in regards to education, what needs to be done about what should be involved in the process of policing in the police academy, right? Should it be longer? Should they have degrees? Should they learn from a sociologist? Should they talk to like a psychiatrist? Things like that, right? Just so the more education, the more we learn. And I think it's going to be a continued talked about topic of how to improve policing. In Minnesota, they wanted to abolish the police after what happened with George Floyd, right? And I just think that reform will continue across the country. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens at a federal level. Joe Biden has done a lot. He's talked a lot about the outcry for, police reform. And hopefully we are able to see some of that, and hopefully things change in the near future. That's all we can hope for, the hope for education and reform to end the disparities.
Right. Yeah. No, almost definitely. I mean, it's because like the whole like the George Floyd thing and all that, it's led to very divisive stuff. And I don't think reform was a bad thing. I think everything could be changed in one way or another. With that being said, it would have to be reform. You would have to fix it. I don't think getting rid of something completely is the answer, because it's not everyone. Like the saying, few bad apples spoil the bunch, or something like that. That might not be word for word, but that's what we're really looking at here. It's not to label every police officer as the worst person in the world is not only irresponsible to do, but it's also pretty much statistically impossible that every police officer across the country has it out for somebody else. Like that, the statistics of that happening are just astronomically low. Yes, low. So I definitely think there needs to be, or I definitely think they can benefit from a reform, but completely getting rid of a policing unit or, a police presence, would lead to more harm than good. That's what I believe. Yeah,
I think that's a lot of the message people feel, but a lot of people in the Black community they want change. You know what I mean? A lot of people, they want that like abolishing of the police, or they want, the defunding, right? And I think it's a whole we talked about it a lot in June, talked a lot in the summer, right? I'm sure after the George Floyd case, the murder trial of Derek Chauvin, they're going to talk about it a lot more, right? I think a lot of people are just asking or demanding change, and we're just figuring out the ways to go about it as a country. Right. But Kyle, I know you have a story about former President Trump and his old allies. So if you want to pick that up.
Yes. So the Republican National Committee or convention was this weekend, and former President Donald Trump has spoken on it, and in his speech called out the Republican Senate leader Mitch McConnell, Mitch McConnell's wife, and former Vice President Mike Pence. What was said remains kind of on a private basis, so we don't know exactly what he said, but it was somewhere along the lines of calling Mitch McConnell a loser and calling out, or a sore loser, and not thanking him for his work, and Mike Pence for almost turning on the president in his final days as the presidency. But what's more important is that the Republican Party is currently very divisive on Trump and his past leadership. Some are willing to put his time in office behind them, while others are still advocating for him as the leader of the Republican Party and their chief fundraiser, because the man is worth a lot of money. But things might not be going the same way, because although he still remains currently their chief fundraiser and their leader of the Republican Party, Trump has expressed a month ago that he has plans to create his own political party and has urged or encouraged some Republicans to join it. And I believe there are quite a few on board already. However, we don't know everything about that. Like, we don't know if that's actually going to happen or if it's going to happen when it will. But with that being said, there's also talk up in the air of a 2024 presidential run for Donald Trump. So, I mean, I don't call it what you will. I mean, I don't know, I don't know what to say about what's happening. It looks like Trump could be creating his political party, which seems very likely. He's expressed distrust, or not distrust, but he's starting to fight more and more with Republicans in his own party. And we're kind of seeing this in the Democrat Party too with Cuomo. It's like both parties are now kind of not just facing each other, but they're facing internal problems as well. Like I said, Democrats turning on Cuomo in response to the sexual harassment allegations, and now Republicans turning on themselves with Trump's and his time in office. So what are your thoughts on, not just Trump himself, but his plan to create a new political party and his plan to run possibly in 2024?
Well, number one, would he make a new Twitter account? Because that would be entertainment. That would be interesting. I just, he's been turning on Mike Pence and Mitch McConnell because, because that they didn't support his claims for voter fraud in the 2020 election. And honestly, shout out to Mike Pence and Mitch McConnell for not going along with everything Trump was trying to do. But now they're getting political hate for it. You see all of Trump supporters now, they all, they hate Mike Pence, saying Mike Pence really did not fight for us, things like that. Mike Pence was actually following the Constitution and following what his job was supposed to do, right? We saw what happened after. I think the insurrection at the Capitol really was the limit for Mike Pence, and really, am I surprised that, Trump was going after Mitch McConnell's wife? Probably not. Trump has a history of demonizing women. So it's kind of like a roller coaster ride. It just kind of keeps on happening, and it's like a never ending circus. And if he wants to make his own political party, it's very rare that a third party would win.
Right.
And I think no, continue.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, the independent parties have a long history of almost barely even being put on the map. Because if a third political party was to have a chance, they would be included in the whole race. They would be put in, the third party candidate would be put in the debates. A third party can't have a shot if the nationwide air debates is literally two people, one from the two major parties, which I think that's something, I don't want to say rigged or something, but that's, if you think about it, it's almost like a third party is always set to lose because they never get that news coverage. You never see their rallies. They're not, invited to the debates or even allowed. I don't know what the story is there. So, but for somebody as big as Donald Trump and with the support he's amassed over the years, because I know he's many people find him very divisive, but you can't deny that there are lots of people across the country who do support him and supported his time in office. So I feel like it would be a little bit of a different story if he were to create his own political party, because he does have that following. And because of that, I think there's more people that just support him rather than his party. You know what I mean?
To answer your first thing about third parties, they have to qualify a certain amount in the polls, right?
Right.
And I know Bernie Sanders, it was talked about a lot. Maybe he'll go for his third party, especially in 2016, whether he was going to run for as an independent. And I do think if Bernie Sanders did run as a third party candidate as an independent, he would receive a lot of votes in the polls. I mean, we saw, how he did so well in the 2020 primaries. But besides the point, I just think Trump does have a huge following. And a lot of supporters are still believe that there was voter fraud. They still believe on what Trump's trying to do. And I think going into this next election, it'll be really interesting to see what Trump does, right? What platform would he use? How would he get across to his supporters? Because if you remember, that was the way he communicated. Now he does not have that platform on Twitter. He doesn't have that platform anywhere, right? So I think that's going to be the challenge for the former president if he does decide to run again, however, whatever party he does run for.
Right.
And I think Republicans are trying to distance themselves, or they're trying to figure out, should we stick behind the Trump message? And that's a lot of problems that Republicans are having, because we see some people in the House, like, Matt Gaetz or, Green from Atlanta, right? I think that's a lot. There's a lot of people that are like, do we support him still, or are we going on with the old Republican values that, the John McCain party, things like that. It's going to be definitely talked about a lot in the next few months and a few years as well.
Yeah. I mean, they're like I said, they are split. Some are still with him. Some are almost trying to distance themselves from him. But if he remains the leader of the Republican Party, it's going to be a bit harder to distance yourself from him unless they go off and start their own party, which I don't think that would go as well as if Trump did his own.
Bring back the Whig Party. Might as well, right? Might as well go back to all the way to this from the 1700s. Bring back the Whig Party.
I mean, I guess I'm not a history major, so I'm not entirely sure what that is.
Oh no, yeah, I was just making a joke. It was just.
But Katrina, do you have anything that you would like to add to this? Because
I was gonna say that I feel him starting his own party. I feel like that's gonna be. I feel like it would be a little difficult for him. I mean, he would have a lot of supporters. I feel like people that support him are just gonna support him all the way. I'm just curious to see how that would turn out, and
Right.
I'm just curious. And then like how he would also speak out, like Ryan said, like his Twitter's gone. I mean, I know some social media's just banned him. I just feel like it would just be difficult as somebody who doesn't really have much of a platform right now, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm kind of curious.
I mean, it's an all possibility. If he's creating his political party, why not create his own, what's it called? Social media platform. I mean, he has the resources to do it. And we've seen recently, like there's a lot of almost like third party social media
Right.
platforms. Like recently Vero is one that's come to light. We as the station have just joined it. But like, that's not, when you say social media, that doesn't pop in your head because it's such a different one. Like social media is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat.
Yeah.
And what else? Who knows how many other ones are out there that he might have access to, per
Right.
se.
And I know there was some sort of, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was like some sort of conservative platform that I think was banned that was just full of just Trump supporters, and they just spoke their opinions on that app. I
remember hearing about that,
Yeah.
but only very faintly. I don't know what the deal with that is currently. I don't even remember what it's called. I think our behind the scenes producer is saying, or our head of Morning Buzz is saying Parler is what it was called. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it does sound familiar if that is the name.
Right. I don't have too much background information on that platform, but I do remember like that being a thing, and then like being taken down or something, and then there's a big possibility that he's gonna do like create more platforms like that, and try to get more support, people speaking up for him.
Right. Yeah, definitely. But I mean, we can only see like 90% of the stories we've talked about today. We can only see where this leads now because the future is very uncertain. But however, the future is not all negative, as over 50% of Americans are in high hopes that before the year ends, we will see the end of this pandemic. And I don't know to what extent the end of the pandemic means. If it means 100% capacity, no mask, then I'm all on board for it. But I'm not sure if that's what end of the pandemic means in the Good News Network's eyes, which this story is from. But going off of that, 58% of adults have said that quarantine has encouraged them to focus on self-improvement, which I think is really good. And we've been talking about this every couple of weeks since the start of this. And, I'm frankly inclined to agree, having experienced an actual quarantine in my life. Never something that I thought I would say. But in a survey conducted by one poll of 2,000 adults, 60% were encouraged to work on their appearance, 52% to work on their health, 48% their self-confidence, and 46% feel happier overall. And going off of that, there are some silver linings for the pandemic that many have expressed. 60% of Americans wanted to work on improving their personal appearance, like I said. And there are others who said they've come out with a newfound appreciation of nature and just a new overall outlook on life overall. And I wanted to ask you guys, like, what is your experience? Do you feel like this has happened with you? I mean, we're going on past a year at this point. So do you feel like you've been motivated to improve yourself in any way, shape, or form in the last 13 months?
I was gonna say, like, I definitely feel that there's been improvement. I mean, just thinking about how we've been quarantining, not much to do. It really makes you think about, like, wow, we've really taken advantage of what we used to have, and so it makes you want to do more for yourself, and just improve on yourself, and just work hard for when opportunities open up. You want to grab those opportunities and be able to be the best of yourself. That's how I feel.
I've been definitely going on a lot of more outdoor walks. Nature is definitely something that I've been definitely had more of a care for and a love for. I don't know if you guys remember, but when the pandemic first started, Italy started showing pictures of like all like the reservoirs, I think in Venice, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it was so beautiful because humans weren't around, like damaging the air and weren't polluting the air. But definitely taking hikes. I've been doing a lot of hikes. Whether it's going with a group of friends, social distance, of course, or like taking a walk like at a park and seeing people like with their dogs is a lot of fun. I just love dog watching, something I definitely enjoyed. But I think definitely looking at the little things in life, we were able to slow down over the past year, right? And really experience, wow, this is what the world has to offer us. I think a lot of people took that in, and every day it was like, before the pre-pandemic, it was like a rush, right? I have to get my morning coffee. I have to be here in time. I have 20 minutes to do this, right? Now it's like, oh, I have time to do this now because everything I do is on my laptop.
Right.
And to be honest with you, I don't think that's going to change. You talked about a lot of people feel like, the pandemic's nearly over. The pandemic is over, yes, but is our new world over? That's something to talk about.
Right. Which in that case, I guess, yeah, pandemic over, but masks might become a new way of life here in America, because there have been other countries that have worn masks it's part of their culture. Specifically, Japan is what comes to mind when you think of that. They wore masks way before this. That was part of their culture to wear the mask. So it would be interesting if that becomes part of ours, because number one, it was when they first implemented it, it was very divisive, still is, but it'd be interesting because it's not something we're used to. So to see such a big thing become a norm is almost unheard of for a lot of people, because of course there have been a ton of societal changes, but they've been gradual or subtle, at least to me. So to see something so major and in your face, no pun intended, but I think it's going to be a very large, almost disconnect from world before, world during, world after.
Right. There's definitely going to be some difference once like it's not going to be fully over. I hate to admit it. It's never going to be fully normal, but like once we get back to our new normalcy, I feel like there's definitely going to be there's definitely going to be the people who are going to be overcautious, wear masks, that's totally fine. That's just how the world's going to work now. I feel there's going to be a change in society, but it's going to be for the better, and so we can go on with our lives and we'll adjust to the new normal, and that's how it's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to get that. Like, even before this, you've had people paranoid about every disease, germ out there. And you've had some people who are just like, I don't think about it, so I'm cool. And I think we'll get back to some semblance of normal. And I think the threshold of that is, or when that happens, this is just going to, at some point in the near future, COVID is just going to become like another flu. We have the vaccinations, we'll have the vaccinations, we'll have the treatment, and it would be unfortunate to get sick, but soon in the near future, I believe that we will have an easy fix just like we do for the flu, which was very similar to this when it happened. What was it, 1920? So like 100 years ago, I want to say.
Right.
Around that time?
Yep.
Yeah, so,
It's,
I mean, go ahead.
There's going to be a lot of disconnect around the country. I mean, we already see it in Texas and, Florida. I think in different parts of the country, people are going to be like, I'm back. And then some people, whether it's in New York or California, there's going to be like still mask wearing, things like that. Right. But the future can only tell. We can only just hope for what's happening now, and increased medicine and health measures will only lead the way to a better and improved future. So,
yeah. And I'll say this as one final closing thought. It's going to be interesting. Like, if some states mandate it and some states don't, like going from state to state, do I have to do this here? What are the rules? I would say that's going to be very interesting and, dare I say, a little stressful if something like that were to happen. But if you are just waking up or just tuning in, unfortunately, you have caught us at the end of Monday's Morning Buzz. Don't worry, not us specifically, but WMSC will be back with more Morning Buzz. 8 to 9 every weekday with new hosts and new stories. And if you missed any part of today, you can tune in later on Spotify or YouTube under the Morning Buzz, or Apple Podcasts, of course, if you're interested. But that's going to do it for us today. I have been Kyle Pepitone.
I have been Ryan Breyta.
I have been Patrina Geiger.
And this is the Monday edition of the Morning Buzz on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.